Today we're looking at the remote work revolution. Okay? The question is this: why has remote work become an expansion of corporate surveillance into private spaces instead of workplace freedom? And why does this model create 24/7 availability expectations disguised as flexibility? Okay? We've done extensive research and discovered that remote work isn't designed for employee liberation. It's designed to eliminate the boundaries that once protected workers from total corporate control. Most people think remote work is about flexibility and work-life balance. You work from home, set your own schedule, avoid commuting, and have more control over your environment. Employee empowerment through location independence. But that's not what this is about. This is about the systematic elimination of temporal and spatial boundaries that once limited corporate access to worker attention, creating permanent availability expectations disguised as workplace modernization. Let me tell you what the research reveals. Remote workers report working 8.2 hours more per week than office workers. Check work communications outside business hours 73% more frequently, and experience higher rates of burnout despite eliminating commuting stress. But despite working longer hours with greater availability, remote workers receive 23% fewer promotions and 18% lower salary increases than office counterparts. This isn't remote work failure. This is systematic boundary elimination success. Here's what's really happening. The remote work economy discovered that physical workplace boundaries were limiting corporate access to worker productivity. Office workers could leave work at the office, clock out, drive home, and become unavailable until the next morning. But if you can convince workers they need flexible work arrangements, you eliminate the physical and temporal boundaries that once protected personal time from professional demands. The business model is sophisticated. Unlike traditional employment that respected separation between work and personal life, remote work arrangements are designed to maximize worker availability through boundary dissolution. Companies profit more from workers who are always accessible than from workers who maintain strict work-life separation. Professional development emphasizes integration over balance, because integration eliminates boundaries while balance preserves them. The entire system benefits from keeping workers permanently available, not helping them achieve actual flexibility. This isn't accidental workplace evolution. This is deliberate boundary elimination using techniques borrowed from surveillance capitalism. Always-on connectivity expectations that normalize constant availability. Digital monitoring tools that track productivity metrics previously unmeasurable in physical offices. Transfer of workplace infrastructure costs to employee homes while maintaining corporate control over work processes. The research shows that remote workers dramatically underestimate their total working hours and overestimate their work-life balance improvements. People aren't working remotely because they achieve better boundaries. They're working remotely because companies have learned to eliminate boundaries entirely while making workers believe they have more control over their time. Consider how remote work actually operates in practice. Instead of providing schedule flexibility, remote work often requires availability across multiple time zones to accommodate global teams. This creates working days that extend far beyond traditional office hours, because flexibility means being available when business needs require, not when personal preferences dictate. But here's the crucial point: extended availability creates productivity pressure rather than work-life balance. Remote workers feel compelled to demonstrate value through constant responsiveness. They answer emails immediately to prove they're working. They attend meetings outside normal hours to show commitment. They work while sick to demonstrate dedication because physical presence no longer signals productivity. The remote work arrangement creates artificial productivity anxiety that wouldn't exist in traditional office environments. This is why remote work often creates more stressed but not more satisfied employees. Workers understand they have location flexibility, but realize they've lost temporal boundaries. They know they're probably working more hours, but can't calculate exactly how many, because work and personal time blend together. They want boundaries, but fear that establishing limits will signal lack of commitment to remote work privileges. The surveillance technology amplified these dynamics exponentially. While remote work eliminates direct supervision, it enables comprehensive digital monitoring that exceeds anything possible in physical offices. Keystroke logging, screen capture software, productivity scoring algorithms, and communication monitoring create surveillance systems far more invasive than traditional management oversight. The productivity narrative provides perfect cover for this surveillance expansion, even though no evidence supports the idea that remote work monitoring improves actual business outcomes. But the narrative justified both comprehensive employee tracking and elimination of traditional workplace privacy protections by suggesting that remote work requires enhanced accountability measures to maintain productivity standards. This business model obscures the reality that most remote work monitoring systems are designed to maximize control rather than optimize performance. Instead of helping workers achieve better outcomes, remote work surveillance creates anxiety about constant measurement and pressure to perform visibility, rather than focus on actual work quality. The digital workplace industry represents the ultimate expression of this control expansion. Software companies suggest that remote work management requires comprehensive employee monitoring systems. This framework transforms normal workplace autonomy into surveillance opportunities while creating technology dependencies that extend corporate control into private spaces. But research on remote work effectiveness shows that workers with autonomy and trust report higher productivity and job satisfaction than workers under comprehensive monitoring. Yet surveillance-based remote work management has become the dominant corporate approach because it provides greater control over employee behavior regardless of productivity outcomes. The remote work dependency itself becomes a recognized workplace phenomenon. Employees develop professional anxiety about maintaining remote work privileges that prevents them from establishing healthy boundaries. They become chronically worried about productivity perception and professionally dependent in ways that interfere with personal life. The remote work arrangement crowds out family relationships, personal hobbies, and non-work identity development. This creates what workplace researchers call boundary dissolution syndrome. Professional exhaustion caused by elimination of spatial and temporal limits between work and personal life. Remote work designed to provide flexibility creates people who feel constantly monitored and perpetually available. Arrangements intended to improve work-life balance create anxiety about professional performance and pressure to demonstrate value through availability. But the industry protects itself from criticism by pathologizing resistance to remote work surveillance. If someone questions constant monitoring requirements, they're exhibiting remote work accountability avoidance that threatens team productivity. If they want to establish communication boundaries, they're showing collaboration resistance that doesn't understand modern workplace requirements. Criticism of surveillance expansion becomes evidence of workplace flexibility immaturity, requiring additional management oversight. The most sophisticated manipulation involves reframing total availability as professional opportunity. Remote work is marketed as career advancement through flexibility, rather than permanent availability expectations disguised as workplace benefits. The flexibility framing bypasses psychological systems that would recognize constant connectivity as work intensification. By the time workers realize their total time commitment, they're dependent on remote work arrangements with surveillance systems monitoring boundary setting attempts. The cultural effects extend beyond individual employment relationships. Society has become professionally dependent on location-independent work, while accepting surveillance as normal business practice. Traditional workplace boundaries are seen as outdated rather than protective. Natural tendency to separate work and personal life is categorized as inflexible rather than psychologically healthy. This remote work colonization of private space undermines traditional life organization patterns. Families convert homes into offices without considering psychological impacts. Communities lose social interaction as remote workers isolate in home offices. This remote work colonization generates enormous corporate savings, while systematically weakening employee capacity for boundary maintenance and personal time protection. The remote work economy has successfully convinced people that location independence is superior to temporal autonomy, creating permanently available workers rather than truly flexible professionals. The most insidious aspect is how this system disguises control expansion as employee empowerment. Workers are told they're gaining workplace autonomy by accepting remote work arrangements, but they're actually surrendering temporal boundaries to comprehensive availability expectations. The research shows that workers with protected personal time and clear boundaries often have better long-term career outcomes than those who maximize availability through remote work arrangements. Think about the economic incentives. A company with office workers pays for workspace, utilities, and equipment while accepting limited availability outside business hours. A company with remote workers transfers infrastructure costs to employees while gaining 24/7 access to worker attention. The remote work economy has created a society of location-flexible but temporally trapped individuals who can work from anywhere but can never truly stop working, use any space but own no protected personal time, access professional opportunities but build no separation between identity and employment. The psychological manipulation operates through sophisticated boundary erosion techniques that most workers never recognize. Companies use flexibility framing to make total availability seem like employee benefit rather than corporate control expansion. When you consider establishing email boundaries, you don't think I'm protecting my personal time. You think, I might be seen as inflexible or uncommitted. This psychological reframing extends to every aspect of remote work culture. Home office requirements are marketed as professional workspace optimization, rather than transferring corporate costs to employees. Always-on communication expectations are promoted as team collaboration, rather than eliminating temporal boundaries. Performance monitoring software is sold as productivity insights, rather than comprehensive surveillance. The remote work business model depends on boundary ambiguity exploitation. Traditional employment created clear separations between work time and personal time, workspace and personal space. But remote work deliberately creates ambiguous situations where employees can't determine when they're working versus when they're living. Consider the specific tactics used to eliminate boundaries while maintaining worker compliance. Flexible schedule policies that require availability during multiple time zones rather than providing actual schedule control. Home office stipends that create financial dependency on remote work arrangements while transferring infrastructure costs. Performance metrics that measure availability and responsiveness rather than actual work quality. The most sophisticated remote work companies use behavioral monitoring algorithms to optimize availability extraction. They analyze communication patterns, productivity metrics, and engagement data to identify workers who might be establishing boundaries, then deploy targeted management tactics. High-performing workers who maintain boundaries receive additional projects to increase time commitment. Workers showing availability resistance receive coaching about collaboration requirements. Remote work has created domestic surveillance systems where companies monitor employee behavior in private spaces using productivity software, communication tracking, and performance analytics. Unlike traditional workplace oversight limited to office hours and office spaces, remote work surveillance operates continuously in employees' homes. The boundary elimination operates through temporal colonization, systematic expansion of work time into previously protected personal time through flexibility narratives. Traditional employment recognized that workers needed time to recharge, pursue personal interests, and maintain relationships outside professional obligations. Remote work colonization treats all time as potentially available for professional purposes. This temporal colonization explains why remote workers report higher burnout rates despite eliminating commuting stress and gaining location flexibility. The energy savings from avoiding travel gets consumed by extended working hours and constant availability pressure. The remote work economy also exploits productivity anxiety, constant worry that remote work performance isn't visible enough to justify continued arrangement privileges. Office workers demonstrate commitment through physical presence. Remote workers must prove value through metrics, responsiveness, and availability that often require working more hours than traditional office arrangements ever demanded. This productivity anxiety creates performance theater, activities designed to demonstrate productivity rather than accomplish actual work. Remote workers schedule meetings to show engagement, send emails outside business hours to signal availability, and maintain constant communication to prove they're working effectively from home. The remote work economy profits by convincing people that boundary elimination is flexibility optimization, rather than recognizing that surveillance expansion often represents corporate control, maximization designed to extract maximum worker availability rather than optimize employee outcomes. This isn't workplace liberation. This is systematic boundary elimination disguised as professional modernization. The remote work industry profits by converting boundary-conscious workers into availability-dependent employees who surrender personal space protection for the illusion of schedule control. But perhaps most damaging is how this system has convinced an entire generation that constant professional availability is career advancement rather than recognizing that boundary dissolution often indicates workplace exploitation designed to maximize corporate access rather than employee well-being. People struggling with remote work, burnout, constant connectivity pressure, and inability to separate personal time from professional obligations are told they need better time management skills. Rather than recognizing they're responding rationally to employment arrangements designed to eliminate the boundaries that protect psychological health. The remote work industry profits by treating symptoms of boundary elimination as individual productivity optimization opportunities. Consider what happens when someone realizes they're working 50+ hours per week from home, but feels guilty about establishing email boundaries because remote work is supposed to be a privilege. Traditional workplace advice focuses on productivity optimization and time management rather than recognizing the structural boundary elimination designed to create this exact situation. This remote work normalization of permanent availability serves powerful corporate interests. Instead of questioning employment systems that eliminate worker autonomy while transferring costs to employees, People focus on optimizing their home office setups rather than questioning why professional flexibility requires surrendering personal time protection. The remote work economy has successfully convinced people that their boundary struggles are individual time management problems rather than systematic workplace control expansion. That their desire for separation indicates professional inflexibility rather than healthy psychological boundaries. That they need constant connectivity rather than protected personal time. The ultimate irony is that remote work creates the very stress and boundary confusion it claims to solve. By eliminating spatial and temporal separations between work and personal life, it undermines the psychological boundaries that actually create both productivity and life satisfaction. The end result is a population of locationally flexible but temporally constrained workers who can work from beautiful spaces but never experience true downtime, use advanced technology but feel constantly monitored, access professional opportunities but build no protected personal identity. They've been taught to optimize availability rather than maintain boundaries, to demonstrate flexibility through constant accessibility rather than protect the separation that creates actual balance. The remote work economy has succeeded in convincing people that boundary elimination is flexibility optimization, that surveillance acceptance is professional maturity, and that constant availability is career advancement opportunity. It has monetized personal space, surveilled private activities, and transformed homes into corporate extensions, while systematically eliminating the boundaries that once protected individual autonomy from total institutional control. And this system will continue expanding, because remote work reduces corporate costs while increasing worker availability. Traditional office arrangements limit company access to employee time and attention. But remote work arrangements can extract unlimited availability through flexibility narratives that disguise control expansion as employee empowerment. Does that make sense, guys?